I do want to get into it specifically. And you're right, there's recriminations, there's accusations from many. And I understand this because it's an emotional topic and people will be saying who's to blame, how we got to this. So I do want to almost take it bit by bit. And this first one, and I know you've written about this specifically in your article and sort of tackled into the different players on this. It does make you think, and whether it's cynical or whatever, but on Trent's last contract renewal, it was 4 years, which isn't typical, if we're honest. It tends to be for a younger player, 5, maybe even 6 in that regard as well. Is there a bit of you now when you're looking at it thinking 4 years, was this part of the plan all along for Trent?
Yeah, I don't doubt it for a second. I mean, as a starting point, really, we've spoken about this contract and the possibility here for such a long time. And the reason I kind of was never able to preach any confidence about this one was on the basis, and we said it repeatedly, this one's going to be up to Trent. It's all about whether he wants to stay or not. He ultimately will make that decision or not. And obviously, so, as much as we'll talk about the blame elsewhere and the situation and how it's come about, the primary reason this has happened is because Trent Alexander-Arnold would prefer to play for Real Madrid next season and in the coming seasons than play for Liverpool. So, it's a really good starting point for blame in terms of, that there's, if a player decides that, what really can you do? And you're right to talk about the contract. I think that's a massive thing. I mean, around that period, Virgil van Dijk signs a 5-year deal. I think Alisson signs a 6-year deal. They've signed Nunez up to a 6-year deal when they initially signed him. So you see in the contract lengths that they would prefer, and they're certainly not 4 years. So it clearly, he signed that with this situation in mind, didn't he? That he would come to this point, and it's not to say he decided all those years ago when he signed it that he wanted to go to Real Madrid. You don't even know that interest is going to be there, or maybe with Barcelona, maybe not. Maybe his form would have fell off a cliff, and none of those clubs would have been involved. But his ideal situation when he signs that deal at 4 years in length is that he comes to this renewal, and the best scenario he could work out in his head, even if he wanted to stay, is to have Real Madrid battling for his services with Liverpool, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, whoever.
Yeah,
that's clearly something he kind of cooked up in his mind, is to put himself in this situation and give himself such an incredibly strong hand, which he did. I mean, unfortunately, he's given himself a strong hand, but that move to Real Madrid has ultimately proven too tempting, and he's actually wanted to go. So I guess it's just one of those where he has engineered this situation and ultimately decided he wants to go. So we will go through how other people have played the part, but he kind of wanted this situation and he's made the decision. And regardless of whether contracts have got out of hand or should have been dealt with it, blah blah blah, all these different aspects that come into it, he could still have signed for Liverpool if he wanted to, and he hasn't. So, in terms of, I think the overall, it ultimately is Trent's decision to make, and he's made it.
Yeah, and the comments are starting to fly in. Yeah, Frosty Friedman saying the only person to blame is Trent. He is an adult, which is true, and he knows what he's done. Liverpool's made him who he is. And I suppose the three other elements around Trent, I mean, people will look back a little bit in what's happened in recent years, because you mentioned his interviews. I mean, he did that one, I think, was Alistair Campbell, where he said he couldn't imagine being anywhere else for Liverpool. But obviously, we know what's happening here. We also start thinking about how this has gone on. And we've heard that the club have made multiple bids and trying to negotiate. You're thinking, well, if he knew this all along, as he strung them along, you can see that reaction's coming out on social media. Has he engineered all this situation somewhat? And people even referencing his brother Tyler as his agent and whether this was his plan. You can, right or wrong in the merits of that, you can understand the furore around those points, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. I understand the kind of frustration around those aspects. But one thing I would say, and again, I think this is something we discussed on a pod a while ago, actually, is that, I said that I actually think the reason he's not come out in interviews and completely shut this down is because at the time I kind of believed that he would, he hadn't quite made his mind up. And I do think that's a possibility, by the way. I don't think, you're seeing people now suggesting, he decided on this move a long time ago, etc. We can't know that for sure. That is very, very difficult to know. And like I say, I think he engineered this situation so he would have this is what you're going to get at Real Madrid. This is what you're going to get at Liverpool. These are the two offers. Have a think about that and then make a real decision over that. And clearly has made his decision now. But I'm not so sure it was engineered in terms of, I'm going to go to Real Madrid and I want this move 18 months in advance and I'm going to run my contract down. I'm not sure it was quite that cynical, to be honest. So I don't personally really buy into that aspect of it, really. But I understand why people are frustrated that it's, it's felt like that, hasn't it? It's felt like Liverpool being strung along a little bit, and that's really frustrating. But I do wonder whether, could this move have been engineered in any other way, or in a way that wouldn't have really disappointed people? And if he had stopped to speak about his future, for example, more often this season, would he really have said anything that would have given anyone any great comfort, really, anyway? So it's just not a nice situation, is it? It's not one to be enjoyed, and unfortunate, and all those interviews and a part of it. And one thing I would say, I think maybe you could say from Trent, is particularly disappointing behaviour, actually, in terms of the things that I think should be laid at his door. I do recall us discussing his celebration at West Ham when he scores the goal. And I said at the time, do you know what? That gives me a little bit of confidence, actually, that he's going to stay at Liverpool, because I thought, no way is he going to antagonise the fans in that way and then go and leave for Real Madrid. And he has done that. So, he's absolutely, well, I say that I think he primarily is to blame for this situation, because it's his decision. But I do think aspects like that do tend to make it extra disappointing, and all the things he said in interviews, etc.
Yeah, and it does, like you say, when you start looking back in those moments, you just view things in a slightly different way. And it's interesting, this word I did want to use, that people are putting this in the chat panel. So thank you for all your comments. One there from MRG2510. Pity he could have gone down as an all-time LFC great, legacy ruined. I mean, he will have known this, and the impact, what he's doing and what he's going to do would have. But this damages the legacy, no matter how anyone dresses it up now, doesn't it?
Yeah, you just can't get away from that. I mean, I've seen people say, well, he won everything, and he did. And I don't go too far that way in terms of saying everything's trashed. He's absolutely nothing to Liverpool, because he is, at the end of the day, a big reason why, he came through the academy, cost him nothing, and he was a wonderful world-class footballer for so many years. Helped them end the Premier League drought. He's going to get another one. Won a Champions League. Won the Club World Cup. Won everything it was possible to win. So I don't agree with this sort of suggestion that his legacy is, that's it now. He's completely finished. But it's not going to be as strong as it could have been. He's going to be nowhere near Steven Gerrard, and when he hangs his boots up in the end. He's not going to get, I suspect, a warm welcome if he ever comes back to Liverpool with Real Madrid. It's not going to be one of those. So. He's tarnished his legacy in terms of what it could have been, and how big of a Liverpool legend he could have been had he stayed for much longer. But I still think there will be something there we can grasp onto and say, is a real positive in terms of what he gave Liverpool.
Yeah, it almost has the feeling that he'll be in that McManaman and maybe Owen category, as people put it. Maybe people look at those different, but we'll see what that brings. But